Passover ends today. 8 days of deliberate restriction, specific dietary rules, specific rituals, specific constraints on how you move through your days. A framework that organized everything: what you eat, how you prepare it, what the week means, and then today it ends. And today is also Unicorn Day. I want to hold both of those together for a moment because they're pointing at the same human experience from completely different directions. I'm Liz St. James. At H2P Collective, we work with people and teams to use their problems as the doorway to their goals. We have a 5-step framework called Synovio Space that takes a systems thinking, multi-dimensional approach to attaining goals. Here's the thing about restriction that most personal development frameworks get exactly wrong. They treat restriction as purely the problem, the thing to overcome, escape, move past, leave behind. And they sell the image of what life looks like on the other side. The unicorn version, the arrival, the freedom, the life where the restriction is finally gone and everything opens up. What they almost never address is what actually happens in the moment after the restriction lifts. The promotion finally came, the relationship ended, the project finished, the kids left, the constraint that had been organizing your energy, your identity, your sense of what the week was for, it's gone. And what was supposed to feel like arrival feels like strangely disorienting instead. Quieter than you expected, less clear than you planned for. The unicorn wasn't there, not because you did anything wrong, because the image of freedom was formed inside the restriction by a version of you who didn't yet have the experience of what freedom from that specific thing actually feels like in practice. The ancient story of Passover understands something about this that most modern narratives don't. After the liberation from Egypt, the Israelites built a golden calf in the desert, not because they were ungrateful, not because they were weak, because external freedom without an internal framework for what to do with it produces its own kind of disorientation. The constraint organized everything. When it lifted, they reached for something familiar, something that felt like structure, even if it was the wrong structure. That pattern is not ancient history. It's a Tuesday afternoon after the thing you've been working toward for 3 years finally arrives. Here's what the Synovio Space Framework asks at exactly this moment, the moment after the restriction lifts. That most frameworks skip entirely. Not what do you want now? What does your actual system need now that the organizing structure has changed? Because the goal you were working toward was formed inside the previous constraint, the identity, the rhythm, the sense of contribution. All of it was organized around the restriction that just ended, and the honest assessment of what comes next isn't about the unicorn you imagine. It's about reading what your actual system across all 8 dimensions simultaneously is now ready to move toward. The assessment doesn't start with the destination. It starts with where you are actually right now, not where you hope to be when the restriction lifted, where you are, what's intact, what needs rebuilding, what the system is already organizing toward now that the previous container has changed. That's the doorway the end of any restriction offers, not the unicorn version of what was supposed to be waiting, the honest picture of what's actually there and what it's ready to become. The free Synovio Space Diagnostic at h2pcollective.com gives you an honest snapshot of where you are across all 8 dimensions of your life. But a snapshot on its own is just data. What turns it into a roadmap is the conversation, your goals, your results, and the insight Raphael and I bring to both. That's where we find the one change that creates movement everywhere else. Take your goal, start with the diagnostic. That's the first step. Passover ends today. The restriction lifted. The unicorn wasn't waiting on the other side. It never is. What's waiting is something more honest and more useful than the image, your actual system, ready to be read accurately.